Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Now, this legend in that little screen there on Zoom, if you're watching, is Bryant Wright. If you're listening to him on the radio, no doubt, maybe you visited Johnson Ferry Church. He was a pastor there for a long, long time. Right from the heart, you heard those little spots all over Atlanta radio. But we are so blessed to talk to this guy. We love him to pieces. Pastor, how are you?
So glad to be with you guys. Thank you for the opportunity.
We wanted to check in with you. We are all socially isolated. We see that you're there in your office. We want to check on Ann and the boys and the grandkids. Is everybody healthy? Everybody good?
Everybody is doing good. I'm very thankful for that.
And you're there in your office with all those books. Now, we like to ask people who sit in front of all the books, did you actually read all those books?
Well, when it comes to the commentaries, obviously you read the portions when you're developing sermons. So I haven't read them completely, but yes, the other books pretty much read all the way.
Awesome.
Well, we're gonna test you throughout the interview, so we're you remember. Well, you are a part now of Send Relief. It's a part of the North American Mission Board, and I got this press release probably about a month. Actually, it was a month ago today, and I was just very, very moved and excited about what you guys are doing, and I wanted to check in with you. I know you're very, very busy. You sent a number of thousands of masks and suits to local hospitals, nursing homes, and first responders. You did some stuff in New York City, and really this thing's gone global. Fill us into what you guys are doing and where you're going with this.
Well, actually, Send Relief will be headquartered in the North American Mission Board in the NAM offices. But what's so unique about this, Rick, is that we've seen for the first time our two major mission entities, the International Mission Board in Richmond and North American Mission Board headquartered in Alpharetta here in Atlanta, are joining together in this effort. Send Relief was the name of what North American Mission Board has been doing from a national perspective, but the feeling was, why not join together and have a global focus on compassion, human needs type ministries, where we're able to win the right to be heard by showing the love of Christ and sharing the good news of Christ all around the world. So we have distributed masks not only in the New York City area, but also in the Georgia Hospital Association and healthcare workers here, over 100,000 masks there. And that's happening nationally along with protective clothing that is so important. But what a lot don't know is there has been a massive movement internationally, mostly in hunger type issues, because that's going to be a huge issue with COVID-19. Mm-hmm. In 45 nations, over 172 projects are going on with Send Relief around the world right now. Wow. And just hundreds of thousands of dollars are being invested in mostly hunger relief type needs, but also in some more of the third world kind of settings. You've got a great need for hygiene education, because to prevent the spread of this in a lot of areas of the world, there's just a basic need of hygiene education that we take for granted here in the United States. So very excited about the opportunity to help.
Now, as you guys got started in all this, obviously this coronavirus is something that took everybody by surprise. This is not something we were expecting, obviously. So how easy or hard was it to get all this together and orchestrated?
Well, I think because there are two ministries that have been in place, both from the international and the national perspective, it's really just right now we're in a transitioning stage of bringing those two together. But on my very first week, March 16th, everything began to shut down here in America. So it's been quite interesting beginning a new ministry, bringing all this together, doing it almost all virtually because people are sheltering in place. And so there's been great limitations in the sense of I was supposed to be traveling all over the place, getting to know ministry centers in the United States, seeing what's going on internationally, but that's been limited. So it's really been good though, guys, because in this transition time, it's allowed me to focus on how we can bring these two ministries together and really working largely with staff during this time so that we are prepared when the after effects of COVID-19 are going to be occurring around the world, like especially in hunger areas, it's going hunger needs, it's going to be overwhelming, the challenges we're going to be facing.
It's interesting you say that, Pastor, because I think it was this morning on the news. I heard that some of the workers in some of the chicken plants, processing plants,
Yeah.
they have gone through or going through the COVID-19, the virus, and we may have some issues with like pork and chicken and beef. Now that's the U.S. We can't imagine what's going on in third world countries and the places that you guys are reaching. Let me ask you this, or let me just throw this to you. You know, in an event like this, there's a lot of fear, a lot of panic, and people, human nature, I guess, to just draw back and hold on to. How important is it for all of us to not do that and continue to support missions? Because you know, those guys need it.
They really do need it. And I know there's often a hesitancy to ask for funds when a lot of people aren't even sure they're going to have a job in the days ahead, and some do not have a job right now. And yet, this is the time of greatest need. This is when the Church of Jesus Christ really rallies in the best sense of the word to reach out to those where there are great needs. So I hope that we will be seeing that. American Christians have really been great about rising to the challenge in times like this, and I sure hope that'll be the case in the days ahead. But it is, all of us are living with such uncertainty about how long this will last, that I think everybody has kind of put a lot of things on hold. Even giving issues have probably been put on hold by a lot of families because they just don't know what the future holds. And trusting in the Lord in that regard is the big challenge we all face with the uncertainty that we're facing today.
Now, before we started our interview, we were talking just personally about your family and how everybody's doing. Your son George, who's a friend of ours that we like to have on the show. You said you were talking with him and just the challenges that pastors are facing, especially pastors of mega churches, with COVID-19 and having to completely change everything. How do you see that it's changed church on Sunday?
Well, the virtual worship is a reality for most Christians in the United States over the last month or so. And interestingly enough, many churches like the Church George pastors in Columbia, Shandon Baptist, they have seen an incredible increase in worship participants via video. They have a normal attendance. How that's going to translate in the future, they're not completely sure. But they do know there are going to be some things they're always going to be doing differently, especially online in the future, because it's just a lot of people that aren't going to show up on your campus, but they are being ministered to in that way. But the big challenge they have is if you're staying concerned about social distancing, they would have to have, George was saying, they would have to have 10 services where they now normally have 2.
Wow.
In order to have adequate space for just the normal attendance they have. And that doesn't even include things like Sunday school and Bible studies and children's activities that are going on. So they're just really in an intense prayer, discussion, planning, wondering how and when can they worship again as a body of Christ together, and how are they going to pull that off when they open the doors? And what are they going to say to their senior adults and those that are dealing with pre-existing conditions, people that most need the love of Christ and need that touch, and yet social distancing is what's happening today. It's a real challenge they're facing.
Pastor Bryant Wright is here, and he's part of Send Relief. We're talking to him about that and what they're doing here locally in the U.S. and globally, which is really amazing. It's interesting that you talk about that mega churches. There's a smiley about in the country. There's a small little white Baptist church with a gravel parking lot, probably 70 people. And I'm thinking as I go by there, I wonder, I mean, I know that they're not ignorant, but I wonder if they have the technology to do this. What are they doing? I have no idea because we're doing our own. So it's just something that we're all having to change and kind of move. What do you see as far as on the other side of this? And we would really like for you to encourage our viewers and our listeners, just spiritually, what do you see on the other side of this? I mean, I'm very proud of what the church has done as a whole, still giving out and still caring and learning technology. But what do you see on the other side of this?
Well, I think the big use of technology and how that will be applied once people can go to church in a more normal lifestyle situation is the big thing. But I think also every church is probably going through a reevaluation time of things that they don't need to do, that they've been able to function in a way virtually. So what do they really not need to do in the future, but what has been extremely fruitful through virtual opportunities? I do feel, though, Rick, the thing you talked about with the smaller churches, to me, there's a huge disadvantage in the sense that without the technology, without the teams for technology that the mega churches or larger churches often have, they're at a great disadvantage. And I feel my heart goes out for them, just like heart goes out for the hourly workers or the restaurants or the people in retail right now, that the plumbers, the people, they can't work virtually. We have the privilege to work virtually, but they can't. There's so many jobs you can't do that. And so I feel like they're at a huge disadvantage during this time. And I think our prayers really need to go for those many, many small churches and pastors trying to figure out how to navigate this during the days ahead. Time's going to tell about what's happened with the smaller churches and having to go through such a difficult time. I know Mission in the George's Church, and I think at Johnson Ferry here in Atlanta, as Clay is leading it, they're seeing great increases because the video technology allows them to put out a kind of meaningful worship with their worship bands and things like that. But the smaller churches, they don't have that opportunity. And I just ache for them because that's the majority of the churches in America. So how are they going to come out of this on the other side?
We're talking with Pastor Bryant Wright. Just real quick before we have to go, Pastor, tell us again how folks can get in touch with Send Relief, how they can help, what you need them to do.
Well, I want to urge this, since we are still sheltering in place, and who knows how long a lot of this is going on, to urge everybody where they are to just pray about what God could be leading you to do with your neighbors, with people in your immediate community. And this is something small churches really can do. Think about the local needs and how you can be engaged in that, because this is such a worldwide pandemic. Maybe Send Relief can be more of an inspirational motivator for churches to do that. But if people are willing to support the many ministries of Send Relief nationally and internationally, go to our website, sendrelief.org, and see how you can plug in. There are going to be opportunities for volunteers and volunteer training, both nationally and internationally, in a greater way than ever in the days ahead. So just go to the website, look at that, and pray if God might be leading you to take part in some way. But I'm very thankful to be in this role of leadership of Send Relief, and pray God's going to use it to build up his church.
Pastor Bryant Wright, we love talking to you, Pastor. You're always so gracious to us, and we appreciate what you do and what you're doing. And we are praying for you and your entire staff and your family, and the boys and the grandkids. Blessings to you. Thank you so much. Hey,
always great to see y'all.
We'll be right back. We got to take a break. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Stay right there.